Fallout London is the most ambitious mod project that this franchise has ever seen. A labor of love that possesses the scope of an entire Fallout game. But, like any other mod, and even though it doesn't allow passage back to the Commonwealth, through console commands you can easily teleport yourself to it. Naturally, this brings up a couple questions. Is Fallout 4 playable from start to finish, and if not, then which quests exactly are broken? Which enemies and items have been replaced? For example, are the raiders now Beefeaters? Do NPCs have different clothes, weapons and loot? Do the rainy grey skies of London and its extremely dark nights fit the Commonwealth? Are the Fallout London weapons over or underpowered? Is Dogmeat still in Red Rocket or has it been replaced by Churchill? Will the DLCs even start? And all of this brings us to the most important question. And so, can you beat Fallout 4 if you start in Fallout London? Today's more about curiosity than difficulty, so I'll just be using the Fallout London save from the playthrough that I did for the channel. The Wayfarer was walking along Biggin Hill Airport, minding his business, when out of a grey-colored sky he was traumatized that I came by. And Sanctuary Hills looks good. Codsworth then goes on to shame the Wayfarer for being a virgin.
Things will be so much more exciting with you and Mrs. back. Where is your better half, by the by?
We don't have one. We also don't know any Sean.
It doesn't make sense.
We know an Archie, and we'll figure it out. 200 years have passed in this strange world. We get the High Honey holotape and agree to search the neighborhood with Pendragon's cousin. Sanctuary Hills becomes our first settlement, and we can see that some of the base game static items have been replaced. Turning the bloatflies into powder protein went how it always does. Except for the visual bug that had me leaking red wine all over the Commonwealth. We're then tasked with investigating Concord and finding young Sean. So, staying true to the name that I chose at 5 AM after a night out, I said maybe. Maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. We'll find Sean. As for the Grognak magazine, it's now a London crime statistics. As for the You Are Special, well, it's now a Mr. Special. The grenades are still in the trash can near the bridge, and in Red Rocket, Dogmeat! So he hasn't changed. I get a second settlement, beat the shit out of the bloodbugs, and come to find out that the raiders are now hooligans. Near the Museum of Freedom, Preston asks for help, but the laser musket is nowhere to be seen. And inside, the tour has a completely new meaning.
No more British occupation.
I got the fusion core, took care of the hooligans, and went on to meet the Minuteman. Robco Fun is still there. Preston's feeling a bit blue, and to be fair, I like the color change on the jacket. He tells us his sub-story about the Quincy Massacre, and Sturgis goes on about the power armor on the roof.
Here's a crash vertibird.
I'm a Murphy, she's high as fuck.
Completely nuts.
The Perception bobblehead has been replaced by its equivalent coaster. And just like that, the game throws you its strongest armor and the minigun. Before you know it, Gristle is down, and the Deathclaw came out of the sewers begging the Wayfarer to help him cosplay as Swiss cheese. We oblige, a few more hooligans show up, and the Minutemen have been rescued. Preston's impressed, unlike me.
You're nothing to me.
So after showing Marcy that she isn't the only bitch around, I've decided to join them in Sanctuary, and we've got our first bug. Fast traveling has put the marker on the workshop, and I couldn't find Preston or Sturgis anywhere. And yes, I went back. So I reloaded the previous save and slowly, painfully walked with them until I got bored. That's when I went to Red Rocket and scrapped everything for junk. And this time, I was able to move on.
This isn't a home.
For now, headed to the side, I did promise that I'd help them rebuild the town. And as I was looting, both the pre-war money and some foods were looking different as well. The gold bars were still there, that's what matters. But funny enough, the Fallout London safe is pointing the wrong direction. Not that it makes any difference, gameplay-wise, then Sturgis has a bright idea. We're gonna need beds.
I love work. I can sit and watch it all day.
Through the power of alchemy, I turned pre-war money into beds. Something that works with flags, cigarettes, and teddy bears too. Then I built a water purifier with a generator to go alongside it. And when he asked for food supplies, I don't have enough of it. Marcy, she's gonna take care of the farm, so we can easily avoid her. And on the way to the Abernathy farm, we fight some more bloatflies. The sunset's looking beautiful. I get enough potatoes to feed an empire, and I notice that Marcy's unassigned. I know for a fact that food was at 2 when I left. Great. Settlements are bugged in the base game now. Insisting like a mad maniac though, and telling her to tend to every single plant somehow worked, eventually. Although I had to plant an extra crop. All that matters is that we're able to progress, and after setting up a couple defenses, came nighttime, which was brutal. This isn't just darker nights, it's you won't be able to see shit nights. So I took a nap, the map is looking a tad bit different, and I'm gonna go explore a bit. I got the cap stash from the other side of the river, fought some more hooligans, and went into the robotics disposal ground. I found the fusion core, the hot rudder magazine did not change. I grabbed the combat sentry holotape, the mini nuke, and the mini nuke launcher. Told the sentry to start patrolling, he got stuck, and I moved on to the US Air Force Satellite Station Olivia. Mole rats, or hooligans, do not stand a chance against us, so I got a certain locket. I also gave Dogmeat a skull bandana that I found. In the locked room was a 005 comic and another mini nuke. Some mongrels later and we reached 10 Pines Bluff. The settlers were surprised to see that the Minuteman actually reached out after they asked for help, and we're gonna be sent to, Corvega. That's unfortunate. There is a chance that they send you to somewhere less populated, but oh well. Before we go there though, let's visit Outpost Zamanja and take care of Boomer and his hooligans. The magazine atop the workshop is now an issue of Dan Rage. I forgot the turret, and we've got another settlement. I went back to Blake, gave him his daughter's locket back, and told him that we have avenged her. Abernathy Farm's now part of our settlement as well. I did some inventory management, and we're off. Trashcan Carla was nowhere to be seen. And in the Drumlin Diner, where Trudy's having a heated exchange with Wolfgang, I solved her little spat. This brings me to level 54, and since I'm gonna need a few more settlements, I visit Starlight Drive-In. Drive-In, not driving. Anyways, I get some more junk, fight a huge rat roach, get the back storage key, deal with the mole rats, take the blitz perk, link a power pylon to a generator cause I was fucking blind, and go back to Zamanja to actually set up a recruitment radio beacon. And near the diner there's a house that has random events, so I go on to see what's in store for me, and it's a siege naval walker. It barely harmed me, cause 2 pieces of my apparel have ballistic weave, and it's time to go hooligan hunting in Corvega. A fuck ton of raiders later, and Jared won't be causing issues to 10 Pines anymore. I found another issue of London crime statistics, saw another safe that had been put on timeout, and the settlers in 10 Pines Bluff have decided to join the Minuteman. Back to Sanctuary to deliver the good news to Preston. He gives us a couple flares, we've completed the first step, and we've been promoted to General. And he couldn't help himself, so he marked Oberlin Station on my map. Next stop, Grey Garden. Supervisor White's worried about the quality of the water, and Mr. Handy is shivering. And I go to the Western Water Treatment Plant. I didn't even bother fighting the super mutants, found an issue of DIY, started pressing buttons, and the Mirelurks have all been replaced with Fallout London's Meatenlurks. Now, Meatenlurks are a reference to Chinese mitten crabs. Yeah, I know, an invading species that can be found on London. Me though, I'm just gonna keep on pretending that they're a Mitten Squad Easter egg and there's nothing anyone can do to stop me. After cooking some steamed crabs, we press some more red buttons, reactivate the facility, and I keep on going until I reach Oberlin Station. Over here, a settler tells us that they too are being shaken down by raiders, so we promise to take care of that. With the new map marker on my Pip-Boy, I go back to Supervisor White, tell her the good news, and Grey Garden has joined us as well. I then made my way through Hangman's Alley, but for some reason I couldn't activate the workshop. I killed everyone. There's no enemies around, not even on the compass, so that's odd. Maybe it was just a good old collision bug? I have no clue, man. Now, to help Oberlin Station, we have to take care of Backstreet's apparel. Every single hooligan kept being either 1 or 2 shot. Well, hit, not shot, but still. Even Clutch was no match for the Stan Rigby. Back to Preston, and it seems we've got a good problem on our hands. We've gotten big enough that we're having trouble communicating with other settlements. He's finally giving me the quest to retake the castle. I also used this opportunity to craft a decontamination arch, and went on to Diamond City. Right before I could interact with Piper, the game kept telling me that an invisible super mutant brute could be talked to. Okay. Anyways, she went on to play peekaboo with the speaker. We gaslight Daddy. He lets us in, and as the mayor is spewing his bullshit, I simply go along. And into Valentine's Detective Agency. Road to Freedom starts after a guard mentions the railroad, and Ellie has a joke in store for us. The detective has gone missing. Yeah. We will find Nick. In the center of the stadium, Kyle is threatening his brother cause he suspects that he's a synth. So I do Riley a favor and step in, and then I quick save. Check if Riley was indeed a synth. He wasn't. Reloaded, and started making my way towards Park Street Station. And as I see Swan, I cannot resist testing the stun Rigby on him. Though I don't know what surprised me more. The fact that Swan was being extremely tanky, or that he barely scratched me. The weather looked like shit, and I went into the station. For a change, the Triggermen weren't being killed in one hit, and eventually we reached the entrance to Vault 114. Over here, things take a turn for the worse. The door controls are not just visually bugged, the Pip-Boy is not activating it. This is the first quest that we see being completely broken. And it goes on to show that you cannot beat Fallout 4 if you start in Fallout London. However, there's plenty of quests to check if they're broken too, so I'm just gonna use the console commands to walk through walls and keep on going. Oh, and if you're wondering if the vault door can be opened from the inside, no, unfortunately, it cannot. A bit of self-defense later, Dino gets his ass beat. I find the speech coaster and Nick Valentine himself. The Wayfarer's now under the delusion that he's got a wife, a kid, and that he must track down the murderer that shot the wifey and took the kiddo. Nick, not knowing any better, believes us instead of having us checked by a doctor. And together we go on to bring the vault's population to 0. Back to the entrance, and Skinny Malone's back, with his sweetheart, Darla, who ran away. A couple taps to their foreheads, and Nick can finally close the case he was working on to fully focus on ours. Although, vault door is closed, so he starts running laps around the vault. Great. Don't worry though, cause after I got out, I just had to wait a tiny bit, and he suddenly showed up. Hey, maybe we can finish the game without resorting to finish quests through console commands. Anyways, I tell him that his secretary deserves a raise, and we agree to meet on his office later. Before continuing the main quest, I go on for a jog and a swim until I reach Preston and the Minuteman, ready to take over Fort Independence. Everyone turns into Sun Tzu, but it's my decision, and I say, we're going in guns blazing. The Mitten Lurks are putting up a fight, or rather, they're taking a good while to beat. After the first stage, and as the Minutemen take care of the eggs in the courtyard, me and Preston go on to clear the walls. At least that's what he implies. Actually, I once again do everything as they take credit for barely helping. Eventually, the Mitten Lurk Queen shows up, and she's pissed. Couple missiles, and we've done it. 2 medium generators are enough to power up Radio Freedom, which automatically gives me a quest, and Preston decides once again that another settlement needs my help. And then he starts shooting the egg clutches even though there aren't any eggs left or enemies in sight. Okay, moving on. In the previous general's room, I clear the rubble. Finch Farm's also in need of help, it seems. And in the castle tunnels, I clear the landmines and defeat Sarge with a critical hit. Though I am gonna need to wait a day, at least, for Ronnie Shaw to show up, so I go back to Sanctuary, dump the junk that I've collected into the workshop, take a nap. And it's time to go back to the castle. Ronnie, she introduces herself to us. We recognize the value of having a veteran from the old days back in the Minuteman. Most importantly, she goes on about the artillery that's quite likely still in the armory. And look, a new flag. And having cleared the tunnels, I just had to wait for Ronnie, snail pace, to finally reach the terminal. Third try was the charm. She finally remembered the passwords, and in the next room, General McGann has seen better days. Although, for someone that has passed decades ago, it seems the casks of Amontillado have kept him, preserved. I said hi to the Edgar Allan Poe Easter egg. The door to the armory wouldn't open, no matter what. I got the artillery schematics and supplies. Ronnie, she had no other choice but to walk the long way around. Oh, and the game's graphics started becoming super weird. The visuals did fix themselves after I slept for a bit, and the artillery test was a massive success.
Gotta hand it to you, General. You really turned things around for the Minutemen.
With that done, I put another perk point into Blitz and went back to Nick Valentine. Ellie thanked us, and Nick starts to dig on the Wayfarer's apparent delusions. I have no option to tell him that I'm actually a test tube clone, so I go on to describe a murder and a kidnapping that I didn't see. And I describe in detail an attacker I've never even met. Nick, however, recognizes the man, Kellogg, who used to live in a house here in Diamond City. Once we're far enough from Ellie, he explains that Kellogg's a top mercenary. The sort that has no enemies because they don't live to tell the tale. I picked the master lock, we got in, and Dogmeat needed a little slap on the ass to move so I could press the big red button. That leads us to a secret room, and over here our biggest clues in finding Kyon are Gwinnett beer, 44 caliber bullets, and San Francisco Sunlight cigarettes. Realistically, we would be fucked. Plot armor comes into the action, and we've got a whole doggy that's an even better detective than the detective. All I gotta do is have Dogmeat pick up on Kellogg's scents, and he'll lead us right to him. And so the long walk begins. First, we're led to some more San Francisco Sunlights, then we find some mole rats, and keep going until we see some bloody rags. And after fighting some ghouls, the nearly destroyed Assaultron wouldn't engage with me in dialogue. And on the distance I see Skiffle and Warco? Oh, this has to be a random encounter from Fallout London, one that I didn't see on the playthrough. It seems that Warco, Skiffle's son, isn't too pleased with Daddy. I don't think this worked as intended, though, cause Skiffle simply didn't want to chat, so yeah. Fucking hell. After shutting up those two, I got back to the Assaultron to see if that event messed up with a script or something. I don't know. But this time, it worked. So, we deduced that this had to be Kellogg. The quest marker now points us to Fort Hagen. I take care of the turrets and go in to do the same thing to the synths. The leader on the first floor actually managed to tank a couple hits. Good for him. And after taking the elevator, the sass begins. As I inevitably get closer and closer, Kellogg tones it down, and actually wants to chat. So I gift him a mini nuke, and the mysterious stranger finishes him off. And here is the second major bugged quest. The terminal does nothing. So much so that I can't even get away from staring at the abyss. Doubting that the abyss was staring back, I reloaded and could only progress the quest by using the right console command to trigger the next stage of the quest. And because the terminal did not work, I also had to face through the locked door. Going back outside, we see the Prithwen in all its might and glory. And then I made my way back to Diamond City. Piper is asking Nick what's our deal, ain't like we have nothing to hide, so we clue them both in on our findings, or rather, the lack of them. But since I did pick up some of Kellogg's cybernetic brain components, Nick suggests that we pay Dr. Amari a visit. I tell him to tag along, we run past some super mutants, and we make our way to Good Neighbor. Finn fucked off before he could try and mug me. Oh, and the withered ghoul followed me into town. What matters is that Hancock did not care about any of it. At all.
Good neighbors of the people, for the people. You feel me?
In the memory den, something weird happened. Alfresco. Who the hell is that? And ooh, I see Deacon spying on us. I then took care of Alfresco. and went on to ask Dr. Amari if she could use the memory dance tech to hack into whatever's left of Kellogg. Nick volunteers to act as the link between my brain and the brain chip thingy, and as we're going over Kellogg's memories, the Wayfarer is finally confronted with a gnarly reality. It wasn't a dream or a nightmare. Was London even real? Has he been Nate all along? Did trauma block all of this until we couldn't run from it anymore? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. Anyways, Kellogg yaps, kids reading comics, a cursor shows up, and the big reveal is the reason why no one has found the Institute is because they use teleportation to go in and out. And that an escaped convict has gone rogue and is hiding in the glowing sea. Dr. Omari then pulls us out, and Nick's having a couple side effects.
Hope you got what you were looking for inside my head.
No joke, I dropped Nick real quick on my first playthrough for this line alone. So I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna get the Gunfu perk for level 56. Another long walk later, and I had to face a couple Deathclaws before reaching the Crater of Atom. Isolde doesn't really fancy Virgil, so she just tells us where to find him. Man, I always thought that the children of Atom in the base game just exist. No quest, no nothing, their only purpose is to tell you, Virgil? Oh yeah, there's a weirdo in a cave around here now that you mention it. Bro, well, moving on. And in the cave we see that Virgil is a super mutant. He wasn't born that way. He injected himself with the FEV to escape the Institute, so obviously, when meeting us, he thinks that we've been sent by the people looking for him. After realizing that Kellogg's a goner, we tell him that we need to get into the Institute. After he's done with his disbelief bits, he ends up coughing up that if we manage to find and kill an Institute courser, there's a good chance that he can help us get in. Better yet, he knows where we should start. The ruins of the Commonwealth Institute of Technology. And by following the courser's signal, we're certain that one is in Green Attack Genetics. A fuck ton of gunners later, and we overhear a conversation between Z2, the courser, and some other gunners that he captured. Instead of accepting his invitation for tea, talk, and biscuits, I just used Blitz and the stun Rigby to stun him and beat him. We get the courser chip, and someone is asking for help. K1. She's the synth that the Institute intended to retrieve. So I found the password to let her go free, but things didn't really work out for her. Back to Dr. Amari, and turns out she has no clue on how to decode the chip. But she knows someone that does. The Railroad.
Next stop, the railroad. Choo-choo.
Now, pay attention to this. As you've seen, I got the quest to find the Railroad from a Diamond City guy talking about them. The Railroad has holotapes all over to try and recruit sympathizers. I follow the Freedom Trail. Take care of the ghouls. And the password to find the Railroad is Railroad. So, why the fuck is Desdemona surprised? When you invite people over, they just might show up. Deacon though, he backs us up when we casually mention that, yeah, we are not useless like most of their members. If I say that I killed a courser, it's cause I killed a courser. In their hideouts, me and Dez make a deal. Tinker Tom is gonna decode the chip. I get all of the info within it, but they keep the chip. Fine by me. And Tinker Tom is having a blast. With the code that I needed backed up on my Pippa, I go back to Virgil, who has a line that always cracks me up.
Came up with some schematics for you. Wasn't easy. These hands are ridiculous. Fine motor skills have gone to shit.
He was kind enough to draft the plans to build a signal interceptor while I was away. But to build it, we're gonna need some help. So I go back to Preston, show him the schematics, clue him in on the whole Sean and Institute thing, and while he guarantees that the Minutemen have my back, he just keeps on doing it.
In the meantime,
However, with the help of Sturgis, I got the teleporter built. And we're ready to hijack the Institute's signal. I'm going in. If that tube isn't important, that is. If it is, I'm doomed. Sturgis, he also gave me a network scanner holotape so we can infiltrate the Institute's network. And the first thing that I see once I'm inside is a terminal, so I use it. At the end of the room, Father says hello, unlocks the elevator, and tries to convince us that things aren't what they seem.
I can only imagine what you've heard, what you think of us.
And at the end of the ride, we see a kid locked up. Sean. The kiddo doesn't recognize us and keeps on yapping about Father. I can perfectly imagine the smirk the writer had once they were done with it. Oh, and that's not even half of it. For the big reveal, I give a warm, mini-nuclear surprise to Father, the real Sean, instead of his pet synth project. Then we fight through tons of synths, just to get back to the teleporter, and right by it is Pat Slam?
Yeah?
Who the fuck are you, and must you really stand on the doorway? Chubb's bunny laid down. I got out, and I found that I still needed some more settlements. Especially because of the power pylon that I put down instead of a radio recruitment beacon in Starlight Drive-In. Not having realized that at the time, I just went to the Sunshine Tidings co-op, took care of the ghouls, and turned on its new radio beacon. Between waiting a few days or making sure we'd have more than enough settlements, I went to Finch Farm. Abraham's son, Jake, has taken off with the family heirloom, a shish kebab. What Abraham doesn't know is that Jake stupidly thought that if he offered it to the Forged, they would leave his family alone. And since Abraham was extremely cold about Jake, I killed him. And slag. I got the shish kebab, found the explosive coaster, and went back to Abraham to give him his grandfather's swords. Only now does he ask about Jake. Well, that's on you, buddy. You didn't ask, but I am glad to see him having this reaction. Don't mind me though, it's just faster to swing. Being a goody two-shoes, Fitz 100% runs a lot more than whatever this is.
That's what happens to raiders.
Back to Preston, and the fence is dancing, as fences usually do when you're not looking. The next part of the plan is to attack the Institute, though Preston just keeps talking about settlements. Though that's actually on me, so I go back to Sturgis and give him the network scanner. And as I'm destroying a settlement that Preston wanted me to help, just so I could see if I could set up another radio beacon, and while that wasn't working, Radio Freedom lets me know that it's finally time to defend the castle. I hate this quest. Well, hate isn't the right word, it's more like dread. Cause the sheer number of enemies we're gonna face is absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, Ronnie Shaw asks us to set up enough defenses, cause she thinks we'll need it. Truth is, all that the Minutemen need is me and the Stan Rigby. And so, a battle for the ages commences. Not due to how epic it's gonna be, but rather cause it's 20 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. Oh, and by the end one of the coursers was just standing on the radio's roof, and that was worth it. Oh man, this game. Once we were done, Ronnie's happy and Preston's pretty much ready for the assault we'll launch at the Institute. But first, I need to get a debrief from Sturgis, and at level 58, I took on another Gunfu perk. As for Sturgis, he found out that the Institute is using an old water pipe that brings in cooling water to their reactor. Now, whether we'll get highly irradiated or not, we'll have to go there and see, cause that's the only way we've got to get in there. He then goes on for a walk mid-conversation, forcing me to go after him. What a douche.
Thanks, boss.
And oh right, I almost forgot about the DLCs. So for this, I just want to see if I can get the quests to start manually, and a little something else. So, from Sunshine Tidings, I made my way to the Nuka World Transit Center. A mini-nuke destroyed everyone aside from the Assaultron and the Commander. The Stan Rigby did the rest. And in the Transit Center, Harvey's there. A bit dead after our interaction, but he is. Unfortunately, there is nothing you can do to start the quest. And even more unfortunate, I forgot to test if I could use console commands to activate it, cause I assumed that if you could teleport there, then you could at least destroy the raiders, clear the parks for yourself, and go in and out by teleporting. But, as you can see, I phased through the monorail, it said the power was out. I used commands to unlock the terminal, and after activating power, the message didn't change. The monorail is not going anywhere. However, if you teleport yourself to Nuka World, you can see that everything is still there. Next stop, the Nakano residence, where Kazumi's parents don't even talk to you. The boat's controls also do not work, and I've seen enough. No point in testing Automatron or the Vault something. So it's time to see if we can do the game's last quest without any major bugs affecting it. A little swim leads us to the Public Works maintenance area. The keypad can be used to open up a grate, and through the sewers we fight turrets, ghouls, and synths. Then we eventually reach a very recognizable area. Despite that, the Institute's now on lockdown, so we won't be able to use the elevator. But we're also not going in alone. By using the Institute relay targeting sequence, we can get Preston and the boys to show up. And speaking of Preston, he's got a fusion pulse charge. We are not leaving without blowing up the Institute. Now, in my opinion, Preston's taking the whole marking things on maps a bit too far. I'm the general. I didn't even have a say in this. What if I just wanted to destroy them the old-fashioned melee way? Or what if I wanted to turn this bitch into a museum? We could have done some tours to visitors for some passive income. Or maybe turn it into the Minuteman's new HQ? Whatever. So, through the old robotics, you guessed it, more turrets, more synths. But I just ran past them. This led me to the bioscience department, where the scientists go down. And they've got synth gorillas, which makes no sense, but okay. Seriously, out of everything they could have, cows, chickens, they went with gorillas. At least go for a saber cat or something, man. What do you need synth gorillas for? And in the Institute proper, dozens of synths are thrown at us. A named Corsair 2, XPN-20A. The Good Scout even has a little star near his name. Anyways, I killed them all. And then, finally, Sturgis shows up on the PA to say that he's found a reactor. The only issue being that the way would be from the advanced systems, and that area is locked. Once he shuts up, we can use the elevator, and while Sinchon's gone, the real one is, I don't even know how to describe it. Other than, it's impressive. Oh, and he's got an Angel submachine gun, because of course he does. Why not? And then came another terminal that hard-locked me. Except this time I forgot to save. Once again, I find the command to get the quest to its next trigger, and suddenly, Sturgis is all happy. Me though, I am stuck, so once again phasing through walls, this time to reach the reactor. Over here, you know how it goes. A fuck ton of turrets and another one of synths. I keep running with Forrest Gump's eagerness to love 8. Install the charge. Sturgis teleports me back to the entrance. We're ready to leave, and oh, for fuck's sake, the synth kid showed up. The game doesn't let me treat him as the toaster that the Institute believes him to be. And Sturgis thinks that it's messed up that I don't want a robot based on a son called father that's old enough to be a grandfather. It's complicated. I tell Sturgis I want out. He keeps insisting about me talking to the kid. Now, here, as a fusion pulse charge is ready to blow up. We didn't even do the evacuation signal because the terminal was messed up. And what? Is this supposed to be a touching moment? I tell the thing that my son is dead. It replies for me not to leave it there. Jesus, can anyone in this forsaken quest understand the difference between that is not my son and make sure he doesn't tag along? He can tag along.
I hate you!
Anyways, I told him he cannot come, just to fuck with him. Sturgis obviously is gonna bring the toaster either way, but finally, he realizes that it's a synth, and with the press of a button, Preston smirks, as another settlement's been marked on our map. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Steve Whittle and to John Walker for their support of the channel. And to you, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I'll see you on the next one, and I hope you have a good one. Bye!